When you're making movies for more than 30 years and only make 9 of them, it kinda works in your favor. Perhaps that's why Tarantino has an almost perfect track record when it comes to box office. Fewer films means fewer flops, and out of 9 films Tarantino made, well, it's technically 10 films of course, but we'll get to Kill Bill in a minute, only 1 officially bombed at the box office. Let's look into the numbers and see just how reliable a filmmaker Tarantino really is for the studios. This was Tarantino's first film as a director. He wrote it originally planning to shoot the whole thing himself for just 30 grand, basically using his friends from the video store he worked at, Video Archives. One of those friends, Lawrence Bender, passed the script along to Harvey Keitel, who liked it so much he signed on immediately, and suddenly they had a real budget. Once Keitel was on board, they got Steve Buscemi, Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, pretty impressive cast for a first-time director. They almost got Viggo Mortensen, George Clooney, and even John Cryer at one point. Funny enough, Tarantino didn't even film the actual robbery scene. They couldn't afford it, and he later said it actually made the movie better. It premiered at Sundance, and everyone went nuts for it. Miramax immediately snapped it up. The movie made barely enough to cover its tiny budget, just under $3 million, because it played in only around 60 theaters, mostly due to its super violent scenes. Famously, the ear-cutting scene caused a ton of walkouts. Wes Craven and Rick Baker both left the screening, but Rick Baker later told Tarantino that was actually a compliment. It looked too real. Tarantino's second film exploded way bigger. Tarantino and Roger Avary wrote the screenplay inspired by an old anthology horror film, Black Sabbath. Danny DeVito's company Jersey Films agreed to finance it, with TriStar originally handling distribution. But TriStar freaked out about the dark tone, pulled out, and Miramax stepped in. Miramax had just been bought by Disney, making Pulp Fiction the first greenlit project under the new ownership. Bruce Willis was key here. Biggest star, guaranteed international interest, so Miramax paid $11 million upfront just to get worldwide rights. Basically, the movie was profitable before cameras even rolled. It opened number 1 in America at $9 million, kept playing forever, made over $100 million in the US alone, another 100+ worldwide. It resurrected Travolta's career, made stars out of Jackson and Thurman, and basically defined the entire decade cinematically. Earned 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, and Tarantino and Avary won for Screenplay. Second film ever, and Tarantino was already a major Hollywood name. Tarantino's third movie was based on Elmore Leonard's novel Rum Punch. Pam Grier plays Jackie Brown, a flight attendant who smuggles cash for a gunrunner, played by Samuel L. Jackson. She gets busted, decides to double-cross everyone involved, and try to keep the money herself. Tarantino originally bought rights to several Leonard novels, planned to adapt other titles, but ended up choosing Rum Punch. Cast is fantastic here. Besides Grier and Jackson, you've got Robert De Niro, Michael Keaton, Bridget Fonda, Robert Forster. Leonard himself loved the script, called it the best adaptation of his work ever. And Michael Keaton later reprised his same role in Steven Soderbergh's movie Out of Sight, another Elmore Leonard adaptation. Tarantino actually owned rights to the character, but allowed Soderbergh to use him, totally free. This is technically 2 movies, but Tarantino always calls it one. Story follows the bride, Uma Thurman, an assassin betrayed and left for dead by her old crew, so she sets off to get brutal revenge. Thurman based her character on Clint Eastwood's role in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Warren Beatty almost played Bill, but the role required martial arts training and more screen time, so Tarantino went with David Carradine instead. The film ran long, way over 3 hours, and Tarantino got into big fights with Harvey Weinstein, who demanded cuts. They finally agreed to split it into 2 films. That way Tarantino wouldn't lose any scenes, including that long anime sequence. Volume 1 opened huge. $22 million, Tarantino's best opening yet. Overseas, it got even bigger, made over $100 million, even surpassing Pulp Fiction internationally. Volume 2 dipped a little, but still made more than $150 million worldwide. This one started as kind of a fun experiment between Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. Basically, they were both huge fans of old grindhouse double features, these trashy exploitation flicks from the 70s. So Rodriguez suggested they each make their own crazy movie, show them back to back like the old days, even adding fake trailers in between. Tarantino loved the idea and called it Grindhouse. When it came out, reviews were mixed. The double feature concept totally bombed. Opening weekend missed projections by a full $20 million. Overseas, they even split up the movies completely. Total disaster money-wise. Even Tarantino admits it's probably his weakest movie. He literally called it the worst film he'll ever make, even though he still kinda likes it. As he said himself, for a left-handed movie, that wasn't so bad, alright? So if that's the worst I ever get, I'm good. Tarantino spent nearly a decade writing this movie. He wanted to do his own World War II epic, something like The Dirty Dozen or Where Eagles Dare, but he could never decide how to end it. So he put it aside, did Kill Bill and Death Proof instead, and then finally circled back. He almost cast Leonardo DiCaprio as Hans Landa, the villain, but he wanted someone who spoke native German. It took forever to find the right actor, and Tarantino actually worried the film might never get made because he couldn't find his perfect Landa. Then Christoph Waltz walked in, basically saving the whole thing. When it premiered at Cannes, it got a standing ovation for almost 10 minutes. Opening weekend in America was Tarantino's best ever, $38 million right out the gate. Overseas, it exploded. Final tally, over $320 million worldwide, his biggest hit yet. Tarantino always wanted to do a spaghetti western, but set in the pre-Civil War South. He called it a Southern, inspired by Sergio Corbucci's classic Django. He even got Franco Nero, the original Django, to cameo. The name itself was a homage combining Django and Hercules Unchained. Originally, Will Smith was supposed to play Django, but he passed because he wanted it to be more of a love story, less a revenge flick. Tarantino and Smith just couldn't agree creatively, so Jamie Foxx stepped in instead. When it opened, critics loved it, audiences loved it, $400 million worldwide, easily Tarantino's biggest hit ever. Won 2 Oscars, including one for Tarantino himself for screenplay and another one for Waltz. But not everyone was happy. People like Spike Lee criticized the movie pretty heavily for its brutality and the constant use of racial slurs. After the huge success of Django, Tarantino wanted another Western, but smaller. He was inspired by 60s TV Westerns like Bonanza and The Virginian, where a bunch of shady characters would all gather in one place and you had to guess who was good or bad. But then disaster hit, the entire script leaked. Tarantino was furious. He blamed Hollywood agents, said he felt completely betrayed, and at first he was so angry he announced publicly he wouldn't even make the movie. Instead, he did a live reading of the script. But eventually he calmed down, rewrote it, and made it anyway. When it premiered, Tarantino got into a big fight with Disney over theater space. He accused them publicly of forcing theaters to drop the Hateful Eight to make room for Star Wars. Still, the movie did okay. It opened big on limited release, then slowed down when it expanded wider. Totaled about $160 million worldwide. Pretty decent. And Ennio Morricone finally won his Oscar, his first and only for Best Score. Originally, Tarantino was going to write this story as a novel. Eventually, he decided it worked better as a movie, especially with real people mixed in with fictional characters. And this time, he kept the ending completely secret. Only DiCaprio, Pitt, and Robbie knew how the movie was actually going to end. After Harvey Weinstein's scandal, Tarantino finally broke ties and all the studios went crazy, bidding to work with him next. He chose Sony, got total creative control, a huge budget, final cut, and even full rights returning to him after 10 to 20 years. Critics went crazy for it, named it one of the best films of the year. Audiences loved it too, with over $370 million globally, second only to Django in Tarantino's filmography. Nominated for 10 Oscars, Pitt finally won 1 for Best Supporting Actor, plus it got Best Production Design. And Tarantino himself calls it his best movie ever.